Shalom from Israel, and welcome to our Torah for the Nations weekly meeting. This is Shira Sherbo coming to you from Sfat, Israel. Well, this is across the street from my house, so just enjoy a little picture of the Galilee. Today I'm going to tell you about Hanukka and also about our Torah portion and how the two are connected. Hanukka is about the fight and the light and the party at night. So, to understand the fight, you have to go all the way back to Noah. Noah had 3 sons, and they were Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and each represents a different aspect of us. Japheth represents the physical part of us, and Noah had told Japheth, you're going to be large. You are going to expand. And so Japheth became the Greeks, and the Greeks were large. They took over the whole world. They were beautiful. They saw holiness in beauty. They loved beauty. They loved strength, the physical beauty. They were all about art, architecture, philosophy, drama, literature. So to this day, no one has surpassed so many things that the Greeks brought us. So that all came from Noah's son Japheth. Noah's son Shem had more to do with our soul, with our inner beauty. The beauty of holiness. So there's a clash there of Japheth's descendants and Shem's descendants. One is more concerned with the physical, the outer beauty, and the other is more concerned with, they love beautiful things, but it's more about the inner beauty. And then Noah's son Ham represents our passions and how we have to keep our passions under control. So when you come to the Hanukka story, you basically have a fight between Japheth's kids and Shem's kids, each representing 2 different things, representing outer beauty and inner beauty. So it's really 2 fights going on because so many people in Shem's family, the Jews, they were drawn to the Greek culture. The Greek culture was very modern. It made the Jewish culture seem very old-fashioned and just outdated. And so many of the richer Jews became Hellenists, which means that they really just wanted to be like the Greeks. They wanted to forget their Jewish names and take on Greek names, learn the Greek alphabet, and just think of Judaism as kind of a quaint little thing from the past. But this was unacceptable to the serious Jews. And one of the things that made it unacceptable was when it came to the women. Because the Jews had been told by God how to set up a humanitarian society, how to treat women, how to treat the poor, how every single person is made in the image of God, how to have courts of justice, how to treat the animals, how to just be fair, to be modest, just all of these, what we call like inner values, inner beauty, what is truly beautiful, taking physical things and elevating them and doing everything because God said so, because it's the kind of society that God wanted. And so the Greeks, being very logical, they didn't see that doing things that an invisible God told you to do was very logical. So the Jews had to fight for the rights of their women, just to make it G-rated. When I talk to my grandchildren about this, I say that the Greeks did not allow the Jewish women to have their privacy. Okay, and they also didn't think there was necessary for poor people or little children to learn how to read. It was kind of something for only the elite to do. So there wasn't like education for all. There wasn't women's rights, children's rights in the Greek culture. Even though outwardly they brought a lot of beautiful things to the world, it didn't have the inner depth. It didn't make them more spiritual. It didn't connect them to God. And so this was everything that Shem's family was. Japheth was supposed to learn in the tents of Shem. Japheth wasn't. The Greeks were not interested in learning in the tents of Shem, and so this is the battle that took place. It's like really 2 fights going on, one inside the family, one outside the family, and so, just picture your father, your grandfather, your brothers, your uncles, your teachers, just untrained civilians going to battle against the most powerful army in the world to defend their women, to defend their children. There's a couple of skits that you can act out, just Hanukka stories. One is about a woman named Yehudis, who was the daughter of the high priest, and it's the reason that you might see people eating salty cheese at Hanukkah parties, because she gave the general salty cheese and got him drunk. And so instead of being taken advantage of by him, she decapitated him. So I don't know, my grandchildren would probably like that skit. We also do another skit of where the children were told that they could not learn the Torah. And so they would go into the cave secretly with the Torah scrolls. And one child would stand outside the cave to see if the Greek soldiers were coming. And they would keep dreidels in their pocket and gold coins. And they would, if the soldiers were coming, they would hide the Torah scrolls in the cave. And they would get out their dreidels and they would pretend they were gambling. Dreidel, they would play like a little gambling game. It reminds me of left, right, center that we play today. But they would play the little dreidel game, and the Greek soldiers wouldn't know that they were really studying the Torah. That the Torah was given to Shem's descendants through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The ones that were standing there on Mount Sinai, they were told these are the instructions from God to learn how to set up a humanitarian society so that women are given their rights. They had family purity laws, they had modesty laws, they had just all kinds of laws, so that there was always the right way to treat foreigners, the right way to treat your employees, the right way to treat everyone was made in the image of God. So it was the society that at that time was very revolutionary. It wasn't survival of the fittest. It was a very humanitarian society that Shem's descendants were in charge of learning these instructions and then bringing it to the whole world, being a light to the whole world with these instructions of how to have the kind of society that God wanted. So this is what the battle was about. So it's the fight and the light. When you see Hanukkah, all you see is candles, candles, candles. Everybody's lighting candles for 8 nights. Why? Because when this little ragtag army, with the main family being the Maccabees, went to war, a bunch of civilians really going to war against the big Greek army, it was a miracle that they were able to take back their temple. Hanukkah means dedication, so they dedicated the temple, they rededicated the temple to God, but they were only able to find one little jar of oil. And that jar of oil that should have only lasted 1 night, it lasted 8 nights. And we say that someone had to ride to the Galilee, which is where I am now. This is the Galilee. It takes 4 days on horseback from Jerusalem to get to the Galilee, and 4 days up, 4 days back. So 8 days later, they got back to the temple in Jerusalem, and that one little jar of oil was still going. The flame was still there, and so it was a sign that God was with them. And so it was the miracle of the light. And so Jewish parents, when they teach their children about Hanukkah, they don't want to glorify the fight, because we would rather fight with light. You know, we say that we want to, when people try to kill us, we want to be more alive. We want to do more kind things. We want to be more patient. We want to do more things that represent our inner beauty and the things that the values that God wants us to have. And so I've heard it put a couple different ways. They tried to bury us, but they didn't know that we were seeds. Or they tried to kill us. We won, let's eat. Because now the Syrian Greeks, you read about them in the history books. But the Jews, the little bitty Jews, are alive and well. And we stay alive and well by passing values down to our children and our grandchildren. And this is how we become immortal. And this is what's been going on for hundreds of years. Education is key. Teaching children what God wants. Passing this job down. Just the kind of society that God wants us to have. The values that God wants us to have. How God wants us to treat every single human being. So this is what Hanukkah is all about. Hanukkah is about being a light and holding on to our values. So have a blast, have a great Hanukkah party. I plan to be in Abilene and doing some skits with my grandchildren, making the food cooked in oil to represent the miracle of the oil. In Abilene, if you're ever passing through there at Abilene Christian University, there's a beautiful sculpture of Jacob's dream, and that's our Torah portion for this week. And Jacob is a descendant of Noah's son Shem. And Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were all given this job to build a family that would be responsible for bringing the knowledge of the one God to the world. And so they were the ones that became the Jews, and they were fighting the Greeks in the Hanukkah story. So when the family is basically just Jacob, and he's about to set on a journey to start his family, he has this dream of the ladder going up to heaven, and this ladder represents the connection of heaven and earth. And that's what Hanukkah is all about. Like when we light the lights, the candle represents, a physical candle, but yet it represents our soul, the part of us that we don't see, the inner part of us that connects to God. Hanukkah is also a great time to remember our loved ones that have passed on, and to talk about them around the Hanukkah lights, and maybe even to prepare the foods that were their favorite foods, that remind us that they used to cook for us. Or just get your children thinking about their soul and about heaven and about the presents. At Hanukkah we do give out presents, but it's mostly about the presence of God. And so this is what the candle represents, just connecting with that inner part of us, thinking about not outward beauty, but what it means to be beautiful on the inside. And it's all about how we treat others, about being kind, about being grateful to God, about being generous to others. All those things is what makes us truly beautiful. All right, so that's our message from Sfat, Israel. Happy Hanukkah. Shalom from Israel.